All right, mate.
I didn't actually realise we were live then.
Yeah.
Nice. Good.
We're always live, mate. Live and kicking. Right.
Life is live.
Podcast. Life is live. La, 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 la. First of all, can we crack a beer? Been waiting for this.
It's been 3 weeks since our last
3 weeks.
cast, so let's have a beer.
Podcast Meister General. Podcast number 6. 6 geese are lying. Not laying, lying. And that's because it's nearly Christmas. Why else?
6 Geese-A-Laying is the Christmas reference, yeah. And the lying was switched to because of the old Conservative Party lying about
Having
their
a party.
secret Christmas parties. So 6 Geese-A-Lying. It's a nice title.
It's a good title.
The puns.
It works.
I've got a beverage from Stockport Brewery, and they have produced a Coronation Street special.
No way.
It's called
Yes.
Our Ale.
Our ale. So that's a Manchester accent. Our ale.
It's a clever blend of 3 hop varieties, and it gives rise to a well-balanced bitter with subtle blackcurrant and fruit undertones.
Oh, it's from the Co-op as well.
Yeah.
Nice. So it's not even like you've not had to order it in special.
No, I picked it up. I heard it on the radio, actually, and I was like, oh my God, I need some of that. Just in case you were wondering, it works perfectly with hot pot, cottage pie and steak.
This
Nice,
is to
nice,
podcast
baby.
number 6.
Cheers, senor.
Cheers.
Whoa.
Understated. Unlike Corey. I'm MachineDaena, Electric Honk podcast, streamer, YouTuber, general bellend.
Can't argue with that last one. I'm Andrew Salmon, Coronation Street Extra, Deirdre Barlow's #1 fan. Free Deirdre Barlow.
What have we got coming up today, mate?
The usual. We've got Top Shelf, which is me this time, bringing in a random bottle of alcohol, which is
Nice.
quite an interesting one. Headliner was the success, the highlight of the last podcast. So they've got a lot to live up to this time. Quite worried it'll never reach those heights ever again.
I hope it will.
In the same way that Top Shelf will never reach the heights of the white Disaronno.
The velvet, yeah, the white
Disaronno,
velvet
yeah.
Disaronno special.
We'll look at what's been going on in the last 2 weeks. In fact, last 3 weeks, really, since our last podcast. But I think the news has been absolutely dominated by this Conservative Party secret Christmas parties. So we'll have a look at that. Some goose news, some pork scratchings, which is you this time. And then we'll have a look at what's coming up between now and the next podcast, which will be on, the 23rd?
It's quite a varied one today. Very politically driven today, but there's a few random curveballs thrown in there.
Yeah, I mean, you can't help it. There's literally only one subject in the news, isn't there, these days?
Yeah. Yeah, we're not going to do a COVID special. That we just couldn't do that.
It's a bit depressing, isn't it?
Depression mode.
Maybe in the future if things continue to spiral out of control. But
what have you been up to, mate, in the last week or two?
There was one thing I wanted to ask you, because I was listening back to our last podcast, seeing as we had 3 weeks between now and then.
Yeah. You listen back to our podcast?
I listened back to...
Get those views up.
Yeah. There was a bit in it where I can't remember what the conversation was, but you said they'll get their just desserts, or they had their just desserts or something.
Right.
And I was like... doing something else at the same time, washing dishes or something like that. But I came up with a question for you. And
okay.
I don't know the answer to myself yet, but would you rather eat just desserts for the rest of your life?
Ooh.
Or never eat desserts ever again for the rest of your life?
Ooh, that's a good question. See, I've not got a sweet tooth, so I could happily not eat a dessert for the rest of my life. The problem with desserts is I'll just randomly get a craving for one. I don't crave for them much at all, but now when I do, it's like a hard craving.
Right.
It's like I'm going to the shop to buy a tub of ice cream right now. So I'd probably say no desserts for the rest of my life.
Right. Yeah.
Then only desserts.
You'd have to just battle through those cravings.
Yeah, exactly.
I was thinking, if you're really going to get into this, if this was a real scenario, the desserts that you'd eat for the rest of your life, they'd have to be especially nutritionally complete. So
meat based.
Yeah.
So like savoury desserts with some cereal. And
they'd have to be nutritionally complete so you don't die of vitamin deficiencies or something.
Yeah.
I think I'd agree with you. I'd probably never eat desserts again, but that'd be a lot harder for me than it would be for you by the sounds of it.
We've got a habit of taking things literally, haven't we? Have we told the car write-off?
No, we've never mentioned
this on the podcast. Right, okay. So
this is your story. I'll let you handle this.
So we got an anecdote here. We was at uni, and we was at uni with a guy, and we won't say his name, but he was He was a wealthy guy, like incredibly wealthy, talking like 9 figures wealthy, right? His family. On the whole, he's actually a really quite down-to-earth guy, considering.
I liked him.
But now and then, stuff would just creep in where he'd just be like, you can tell he's got a few quid. And he used to give us a lift to university, and we used to have to drive for half an hour into university. And this one time, he was taking forever. But because he was giving us the lift into university, he was kind of like arrogant about it and almost like, no, you can wait for me because I'm driving us into work. And anyway, one of our other friends, we won't say his name either, but one of our other friends was like, oh my god, in the moment when he was getting pissed off, he was talking between us and the other guy who was keeping us waiting. He basically said to us, oh my god, I hope he crashes his car. And then he realized what he said. And then he was like, lives but writes his car off. So basically saying, hope he ends up scrapping his car, but he's safe in the process. And later on that night, we got absolutely hammered, and we took that very literally, didn't we?
We did.
Because we were talking about butt writing cars off.
How do you technically butt write
car off?
His car off.
So I ended up, we were hammered at this point. Obviously, these things only happen when we're drunk. Just before we went out, grabbed a marker pen, stuck it between my butt, and wrote "car off" on a piece of paper.
His car off.
So I wrote the word "his car off" on a piece of paper with my butt cheeks. I just want to clarify, though, it wasn't in my ass.
Well,
no, I clenched it between my cheeks. It wasn't in the anus.
Because the pen was white.
And it came out brown.
That is a good example of taking things literally and silly things coming out of it.
Anything else you've been up to?
One other thing, quite interesting. I have become an official walrus detective.
Okay, I'm pretty sure I knew this.
Did you?
Yeah.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
So
I'm a member of the walrus executive.
You approve my membership to the detective
the old rubber. It's actually a seal stamp.
WWF, the World Wildlife Foundation, they've started a thing called Walrus from Space.
Right.
And they're inviting members of the public to become a walrus detective. And what that means is you log in and
this has just got like pyramid scheme, money laundering.
It's free. You're helping out a charity to find walruses.
Right.
That's the whole point. So they've got satellite images of where walruses live, and then as a walrus detective, you have to log in. They'll send you an image, and you have to count the number of walruses on that iceberg or whatever the image is, and then they'll continue to send you fresh images over time. So then that way they can monitor the number of walruses to see if there's a population decline over the years.
Right, and so it's the collective data of all of the walrus detectives that allows them to get an accurate set of data.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
Because I heard that Google do similar type of thing. It's not quite with walruses, but I don't know if this is true or not. But all the pictures that you do on those captures are from like Google Images.
Yeah,
and it's like they used human captures and confirmations of confirming what pictures are for the sake of developing their own machine learning capabilities. So if, let's say, if 1,000 people across the globe say these are traffic lights, they've learned through multiple pictures to work out that they are traffic lights and what is not.
So they can do it all automatically in the future. In the future,
Obviously, it's not quite the same as walruses, but
and also on that same thing, before the traffic light things and all that sort of stuff, it would be what does this word say, or these letters and numbers.
Yeah,
and I think that was another thing where they were like scanning in loads of text onto computers, and any words that they couldn't read, it would be tasked to us to prove that we're not robots.
The little sneaky bastards, aren't they? These big corporations. They don't tell us that we're actually working for them.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we should be paid, shouldn't we, for that time?
Last week or two, I had a mole removed today.
Oh, nice.
Under my arm. It wasn't even cancerous.
A mole as in like the animal? You stuck to you?
Yeah, just a pet mole. It was amazing how quickly they did it. I was in and out of the whole like little hospital centre in a matter of 10 minutes.
Right.
Literally, the appointment was perfectly on time. They got me in, a couple of minutes of chit-chat, lopped it off with a cheeky scalpel.
Yeah.
Obviously, they put a bit of local anaesthetic on it first, and then that was it, done.
Cool.
But I walked in, and the guy, as soon as I showed him it, the guy just went, "That is not cancerous." It's like he just knew. He's like Google. He's seen so many images of moles. He just knows what is and is not cancerous.
Nice.
He said, "Well, they'll send it off anyway to get like a biopsy."
He could be a mole detective, couldn't he?
Do you know what Jay-Z used to call his wife before? Well, when they got engaged?
Molly?
Molly.
Mrs. Mole?
Well, when he got engaged, he started calling her fiance.
Is that supposed to be a joke?
It's a play on words, mate.
Yeah, I like it.
It's like fiance, but also her name is Beyonce.
But it could genuinely be true. I've got it. I just wasn't sure if it was true or a joke. Fiance Z. Was that a name?
Moving on. So this is Top Shelf. The idea here is to have a bottle of alcohol each week. It's a surprise to me. I've not seen this before, and we're trying to expand people's alcohol ranges.
Today's facing the wrong way.
Wait, is that? Oh, wait. What?
This is a rum made by Brewdog.
Okay. Now that does not look like a Brewdog product.
So it's called 500 Cuts Botanical Rum, and it's got a little bit of history on the background if you'd like me to read it out. In 1734, after Elizabeth Blackwell was left alone in London following the incarceration of her deadbeat husband, life was looking grim. But this industrious Aberdonian refused to be beaten. Instead, she created the go-to guide for herbal medicine, drawing, engraving, and colouring 500 botanicals, or cuts as they're also known, herself. So with the overnight success of her book called A Curious Herbal, Elizabeth was able to free her spouse. Alas, for Alexander, the final cut came a few years later. His head was chopped off for treason.
Christ.
Full of spice and zest, 500 Cuts pays tribute to Elizabeth's unbreakable spirit. White rum made from sugarcane molasses with fermented red wine yeast for 7 days is double pot distilled to release notes of tropical fruit and burnt sugar. We then distill the botanicals gently for over 4 hours with a little unrefined muscovado added for a subtle sweetness. Here's to Elizabeth Blackwell, the original Spice Girl.
Way! Spice Girl reference, nice.
Yeah, pretty cool looking bottle as well.
That is cool. Brewdog have got like a spirit, haven't they? Because it's a beer that is like 35-40%, and they only sell it in shots. But it's technically a beer because of like the way they make it.
Yeah.
So, and you can get them. I don't think you can get it in the shops, but you can get them when you go to the Brewdog bar, and they will literally only give you a shot of it, won't they?
I don't know if it's the same one, but years ago they had one called Tactical Nuclear Penguin.
That was the one. Yeah,
that's it,
Tactical Nuclear Penguin's the name of it.
Yeah.
It's like a rocket fuel, man.
One thing they're famous for is making their bottles really hard to get into.
Yeah, you're struggling with that, aren't you? So cuts means all kinds of different things, doesn't it? So cuts, is it like a slang name for a dance move, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I think so.
You're down with it.
I like your cuts. But it's also, isn't cuts also like another slang word for what like clothes you're wearing as well? Like your cuts as in your clothes.
I don't know, mate. This is far beyond me. For me, cut is when you're an extra on Corrie and they finish the scene and they go, cut. Okay.
See, when you first said 500 cuts, I thought it was going to be a reference to, like dying by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
I thought that was a reference.
I thought that when I first saw it as well, but no, it's 500 botanicals. So I guess it's as in she's cut the flowers.
Right. And hopefully we don't die from it.
Ooh. Cheeky little sound.
That's probably the best sound we've had yet. Nice.
Right, I'm going to pour this out.
Great corkage. Right, so we're going to have a shot of this each. Try it out.
Cheers.
Oh, on the nose, that smells very strong.
That gives me the shivers. Ooh.
All right, here's to podcast number 6, mate.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm actually dreading this, having smelt it.
Ooh.
Core blimey.
Better than I expected.
Is it?
It's...
I mean,
Look at
your face. It's worse than I expected.
It's way worse than I expected. I don't know. It does feel like a really good spiced rum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does feel like very botanically, doesn't it? It's like very planty.
So we've had Top Shelf. It's the headliner now. So last time we did headliner, I just took some pictures from the internet, and it was the first that came up on Google. And I do feel like we got incredibly lucky with that.
I'm prepared. I've got 3 silly headlines.
Okay.
Dana's got no sight of these. I've got the links saved on my phone, ready to open. So you're going to choose one of them. Small Dong March demands to end stigma around small penises. Horse wins restraining order against pensioner. And the final one, you confused look on your face there. Ex-bishop who fell for satanic writer now pleasures pigs.
Did you curate them, or were they just sort of the first ones that came up? Or
they're not the very first ones. I probably spent about 5-10 minutes looking for different ones. I ruled out a few more recent ones.
You didn't look into them though.
No, I don't know the stories. No.
All right, okay. I like the small penis one.
Yeah.
No, not for any reason.
Personal research.
Right, let's go for the Dong March.
The small Dong March.
Right,
let me see if I can find it. Oh,
so all you small penis listeners that are listening probably here on Spotify or Audible, or where else do we do it? YouTube, iTunes, or Spotify.
Which one's got the most small penis users?
It's probably Apple Mac users, isn't it? So it'll be iTunes, probably. If you're listening on iTunes, measure your dick and let us know how big it is.
Let us know if you attended the march.
Send us an email, honkelectric@gmail.com. Just tell us your small penis stories.
This news article is only a paragraph long, so I'll fly through it. Okay. So headline: Small Dong March demands end to stigma around small penises. Hundreds of people have demonstrated in the US demanding an end to the stigma around small penises. The Small Dong March, which took place at Pershing Square in Los Angeles, saw both men and women chant, "End small dong shame." Two men who were dressed up as hot dogs held signs.
Just the vision of it.
Imagine that conversation. We're going to have to get dressed up for this march. What are you going as? I was going to go as a penis. What, a big penis? That doesn't work. All right, I don't know. Hot dog? Good idea. Hot dogs. Two men who were dressed up as hot dogs held signs that read, "All dongs are equal," and "Jesus had a small dong."
That's absolutely brilliant.
Another, dressed in a penis costume, waved a placard declaring, "All dongs go to heaven." There's no outcome of that protest.
There's no and to this day, we will never know if there's dong equality in America because of the that was an LA march as well.
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
And that was recent. That was recent as well. That was November this year.
That was a great one. I like that. Brilliant. I wonder if do you think they'll do a UK dong march?
Are you not? I thought you said you were organising something. Is that why you were busy next weekend?
No, that was the ding march. Oh, yeah. The ding dong. The artificial dong.
Artificial ding.
That was headliner. Yeah, that was a good one.
It's living up to expectations, this little section.
It's doing all right, isn't it?
I like it.
It wasn't in the original episodes, was it?
No, that was a latecomer. So we were going to move on to what's happened in the last 2 to 3 weeks. News has been absolutely dominated, in the UK at least, by the Conservatives having secret Christmas parties last Christmas when everyone else was locked away, not seeing their families. And there were some sad stories of people whose relatives died and their family couldn't be with them at the time because the COVID restrictions were so high. London was in what was tier 3, which is the highest tier at the time. Yeah. So the revelations are the Conservative Party had various parties in Downing Street. I think most of them were in number 10 Downing Street, the Prime Minister's house. And he initially denied reports that any parties took place.
Yeah.
When pushed on it, I think he then later changed his tune to say whatever happened, all of the correct procedures were followed, like social distancing and stuff.
That sounds like a Billy backtrack.
It does, doesn't it? And then 2 videos were released online. One was the Prime Minister's spokesperson.
PR.
Yeah. Angela Stretton or something like
that.
Yeah. She was answering training questions for potential future journalist conferences. And one of the questions was, we've been made aware of some parties ongoing at number 10 Downing Street. And they all have a good laugh about it.
She was just laughing, wasn't she? And just
she's like, how do I answer this?
And the irony of the fact that she's like, PR, like that is her job. Literally, is to bring great PR.
Yeah,
and like she's done the
spin
absolute
everything.
Worst.
Yeah, this was like a training session that was recorded, and someone clearly inside the party has got hold of it and released it. And so in this, where she's like struggling to answer the question, she asks her colleagues, what the hell's the answer to this question? What do I say? And somebody jokes saying, "Oh, just say it was a cheese and wine party." And then she's like, "Cheese and wine was that allowed or what?" And they all have a good laugh about it. And the fact that they're all laughing and joking, knowing that they'd attended these parties, and when people were literally giving up time with their dying relatives.
So the second video, if I'm not mistaken, is Rees-Mogg. Yeah.
That's right.
The second video is Rees-Mogg, who is he head speaker or something?
He's
for Tories.
He's not head speaker, but he is like head of the House of Commons.
Yeah,
head
of House of Commons. He's quite senior in the Tory party. He's basically like 3rd or 4th in charge of the party that is in power, the Conservatives, the Tories.
Yeah.
And Rees-Mogg, he's a little bit sort of kind of like a bit of an aristocrat, isn't he? He's like worth hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
His family's got a lot of money, and he's sort of walks around with like he's got a pole up his arse and that kind of stuff.
If you imagine like the stereotypical like evil posh English guy.
Yeah,
with like a monocle and like, I hate poor people or something. That's exactly him.
That's a great impression. Aha!
Yeah.
He's sort of like basically mocking the party, isn't he? And he's sort of saying, and I think was it that actually at the party as well?
Yeah, that was one of the.
That was one of the videos at the party. So he stood on a podium and he's talking to everyone, and you can see on this footage that there are people stood shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
So it is crowded, and he's joking, and he's basically taking the mickey out of the fact that everything that they're doing is socially distanced and that they're all wearing masks and all the rest of it.
And they're all having a jolly good laugh in your audience.
And he actually says the words. He says, "It's not like we're going to be investigated by this in a year's time, is it?"
Yeah.
Like that. And everyone's laughing away and they're just joking about it. And of course, fast forward exactly a year and they literally are going to be investigated by it. Unfortunately, not criminally.
Yeah, it's strange because there's loads of examples of the British police prosecuting people for
fines,
COVID offences, and producing fines and things. For this, for some reason, the Met Police have come out and said they're not going to investigate.
Originally, they said they didn't have enough evidence for it. There's no like real evidence, but to me, those videos are evidence.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's got to be basically the police saying, "Well, the government funds us. Let's not bite the hand that feeds us."
Well, exactly, yeah. Who pays for our jobs? Boris Johnson and his mates. Are we going to investigate them for crimes? Absolutely not.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
My initial thoughts on this, I wasn't surprised. There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of like double standards in Parliament and so on and so forth. Nothing surprised me. No worries. So it was just like, I brushed it off as just another thing. But then I saw someone in the House of Commons. In fact, it was Keir Starmer, who's head of the Labour Party, which is the main competing party against the Tories. There is a real chance, probably not a massive chance, but there's a chance they could get into power, right? And they've been into power, what was it, 97 they came out of power? So they're the last party other than the Tories to be in power. And Keir Starmer, he just read out in very slow, calm-tempered approach. Yeah. He read the story, brief story, of somebody whose mum was in hospital, and because of the strict rules that were in place, they couldn't go and see them in hospital as this person ended up dying. Yeah. So they were literally restricted, and the penny really dropped in my head then, because I'd heard similar stories, but when you hear someone slowly recount that story, and it's the head of the opposition party like that, and then he said, along the lines of, and meanwhile, politicians that were setting those rules were having actual parties in Downing Street and not following the rules and joking about it. Yeah. That really kind of disgusted me at that point.
On that note with Keir Starmer, he is clearly not quite popular enough to, really think, give Labour a proper chance in the next elections. But the way he does challenge Boris Johnson, because his history was as a barrister, and he led the Crown Prosecution Service, which was like the legal services that the police use to prosecute people. Yeah, he was like the head of them, and the way that he challenges Boris Johnson in Parliament is very like precise like that. He'll lay out exactly the circumstances and lead Boris Johnson into a path where he has to kind of just lie his way out of it, or just completely try and change the subject. He is very composed and smart. He lacks something that makes the public really like him.
Do you think that Boris Johnson should be sacked or resign? Can we even sack him?
I don't think so. The Parliament, especially the Tories, because they've got the majority, can do a vote of no confidence and potentially get him out. I think, is that not what they did with Theresa May, or they forced her to resign or something? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think so.
So they can get him out, but then they're going to have to decide who they want next. And I think they're quite happy to let Boris ride out these tough times and then get somebody else in when things are
The problem with
easier.
it, isn't it, if you put your hand up and say, I'm not happy with this, you become a target, don't you, in government? So it's like you're not lasting that much longer if you're not loyal to the guy at the top, because he's got the power to get rid of you.
You got to wonder who's leaking these videos as well, because clearly these videos have come from people who were working in the conference room where Angela Stretton was practicing her answers. So somebody within the Tory party has got hold of that. Somebody within the Tory party was there recording Jacob Rees-Mogg. So there's people out there in the Tory party who want to undermine Boris Johnson, definitely. Yeah.
And who wouldn't want to undermine Boris Johnson? Did you see the picture of him wearing a police outfit?
Yeah.
He looked like a gangster.
Oh, he's such an embarrassment.
He really is, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't even comb his hair. Of all the things that could get rid of Boris Johnson, I think you've got to bear in mind the precedent that has been set here. Han Cockface. Yeah. He was kissing someone in the Houses of Parliament, and that was during social distancing, and he was basically forced to resign as a result of that, through a combination of probably internal pressure, taking the flak for people, and then external pressure, right?
Yeah.
So why does it matter? Why does it change if it's the guy that's in charge? Because it's a similar thing, really.
And the thing with Boris, though, is he's got a history of lying and blustering his way out of things that he's done which are illegal or wrong, and he just seems to just get by. He just brushes things off like that.
Yeah, he's like Teflon.
He is, yeah. And this seems to be the one that's stuck the most out of all of the things he's done. Create some crazy things. Like, this is the one that's caught the public imagination. It'd be interesting to see how it goes from now. It's just frustrating that he clearly doesn't give a shit at all. And his scruffy appearance, for some reason, people think he's lovable, and he's like, you know, his scruffy hair and his shirt hanging out and he's overweight and like, oh, look at old Boris. And like Jeremy Corbyn, a lot of people found him very easy to hate, but he got so much stick for like wearing a scruffy suit or like not bowing his head at the correct angle.
Or whatever.
Yeah. The same sort of things that made him like a terrorist loving, like, person that we must never ever let into power. We're looking at Boris and going, oh, he's so lovable, isn't he? Yeah, what a great guy.
It's embarrassing. There must be other leaders in other countries that come away from meetings with him and just like totally shake their head.
Yeah,
like, what the fuck have they got there?
Mustn't they? Yeah.
So, I mean, and when you look at the history of it as well, I already think that our country looks like kind of a bit of a joke after the whole Brexit debacle. Yeah. Even if the outcome was the same.
Debacle. That's an interesting take on. I'd say debacle.
Is it debacle? Is that how it's pronounced?
I don't know, actually. I would say debacle. Debacle is a new one on me.
Okay.
Carry on.
Cheers, mate. Even if the outcome was the same, we leave Europe, Brexit and all the rest of it. It's the manner in which it all happened that was like almost like the scandal about it all.
It was, because there was that time when he shut Parliament down to avoid Parliament introducing a bill to block no-deal Brexit.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I want a no-deal Brexit, so we're just going to close Parliament illegally, it turned out, as well.
Yeah.
And he still keeps his job. So
yeah, it's incredible.
There was one thing I wanted to add on that, though. Tory's Christmas party,
yeah.
I saw quite a lot of people's responses to this being, you know what? If the government can't even follow their own law and show any respect to us, then fuck it. I'm not going to follow any of these socially distanced, wearing the mask palaver. You know, they can fuck off if they think we're going to comply with all these laws now. I feel like that is the most ridiculous take. It's like if you saw Boris Johnson driving without a seatbelt, speeding down the highway drunk, and saying, oh my God, well, if he can do it, then we can all do it. And it's a public health.
Yeah, it's that thing, isn't it?
Issue.
You know, if your mate jumped off a cliff, would you follow him?
Yeah.
My mum used to say that when you're young.
Yeah, it's a bit like that.
I probably disagree with you in some regard there, because you obviously used a very extreme example there. But like when we're talking about things that day to day for people are relatively minor, wearing a mask, socially distancing, whatever, all the relatively minor inconveniences that the public has.
Yeah.
I think it's very easy to disregard small things like that. But when you like really like polarize the public like that, and like embolden them to take a stance on something, I think it's very easy to say, well, it might not be that they don't follow the rules, it's respecting the rules and following them as rigidly. It could be like a shade somewhere in the middle of it where they sort of say, well, I'll wear a mask in public and I'll try and social distance, but if you tell me to not go and see my family at Christmas, I'm going to go see my family.
Yeah.
So you can't look at that and say, well, drunk driving, would you drunk drive? Because it's very, I know it's obviously an example, but
yeah, it's just the fact that people seem to be forgetting that the advice for masks and social distancing, etc., is for public health. It's not a sort of restriction on you that the government have just come up with, and because Boris Johnson's not doing it, we can all be free. It's actually, I think people are forgetting that it's scientific advice to save each other, and the sort of common good for taking those actions is still relevant, even if Boris Johnson's not following it.
Did you see that he then, I think it was like same day or the day before, he was walking around a hospital with no mask on?
Yeah.
Everyone else in the whole hospital, everywhere, had a mask on, and he was like elbow bumping people as if to say, yeah, for sure. But why he just wasn't wearing the mask?
It's nuts, isn't it?
Yeah. United have got a new manager.
Yeah, well, they've had two new managers, I think, since last time.
Carrick.
Yeah. So Solskjaer got sacked.
Okay.
But very, very mutually and in a very nice way, I think it was done. And he got like can't remember how much it was, maybe 4
I think it was
or
7.5 million. And he donated it to charity, did he?
That's right, yeah, donated all to charity.
I think that's crazy.
What a great guy.
If it's true, yeah. However, what I will say, Solskjaer, I've just mispronounced everything today. He's not of the same generation of like the last 10, 15 year footballers where he was earning 100, 200,000 a week, even probably 50,000. He was probably on 20 to for 50,000 a week in the role that he was on. So the 7.5 million to him would be really a lot of money, like a massive amount of money.
Yeah.
And this just to me highlights he's so much of a nice guy. He could never be a manager.
Yeah.
He just can't be an effective manager.
Yeah. I mean, I think he was an effective manager at Molde in Norway where he used to manage, which is fine because it's like quite a nice small league. you could probably get by on good team morale, doing a nice thing.
It's not the same pressures, is it?
No, exactly. So I think he can make a good manager for it in the right circumstances, but definitely not the right man to manage someone like Man United. But what a great guy, though.
Yeah, great guy. I like it. I respect that a lot, but I equally think it's kind of dumb. I think it'd have been just as... He'd have got the same effect. This is a horrible way to think about it, but I don't really care. He'd have got the same effect if he'd have said, I'm donating half to charity, and gave himself $3.5 million.
Yeah.
Or whatever. He could well have also paid tax on that before he gave it, but I'm sure they would have figured something out with that. But to me, you get the same halo effect, and you still give to charity by giving a 10% of it or half of it to charity rather than all of it.
If anything, that highlights how much even more of a nice guy he is. Just to think, you know what, I don't even want a penny of it.
But fine. I do think he's a bit dumb. I think that's a dumb thing to do.
I think he would have quite happily managed Man United for free as well.
Yeah, to be fair.
He could have even given away his entire salary. They brought in a proper interim manager who's supposedly there till the end of the season, Ralf Rangnick. Do you know much about him?
I only know a little bit from... There's some German people that jump into my stream.
Oh, right, okay.
That just know a little bit more about him. Basically, he's very well respected in Germany for apparently building up smaller clubs and medium-sized clubs with not as much infrastructure and stuff like that, and doing a very good job from that point of view.
Yeah.
Obviously, which includes football, because you can't really do one or the other. It's got to be kind of both together, especially at that level.
Yeah.
Those German people that were speaking to me on my stream were saying, will he still be effective when he's got all the other pressures that are on him, and also the public expectations and so on and so forth?
Yeah.
Is that a good result or two so far, is he?
He's had 2 matches. It's quite clear that he prefers this strange formation 4-2-2-2.
What?
Yeah. So he plays back 4, fine. 2 holding midfielders, 2 attacking midfielders that kind of drift wide and centrally. They kind of go sideways, in and out, and then 2 forwards up top, which actually I think seems to suit all the players that Man United have got, because they were quite overstacked with like wide and attacking forwards with like Rashford, Lingard, Sancho, Greenwood, Ronaldo. Between those 4 attacking spots, they can actually fill quite a lot of them. And then the 2 holding midfielders, you've got like Van der Beek, Matic, Fred, McTominay. In terms of the squad, it actually seems to work well, but I think this is a formation that he's used regularly in his previous coaching careers, and it's worked well for him.
He's not on a permanent deal yet, is he? Is he until the end of the season?
Until the end of the season, and then apparently he's got a 2-year
optional clause, is it?
Well, not quite. It's like a consultancy role afterwards as like a director of football kind of situation.
I heard this, like a promotion, right?
Yeah, so he'll manage the manager, I think. Essentially.
Wow, I wonder how that's going to go.
Yeah, I mean, most modern clubs do have a director of football role already, and Man United are one of the last ones to actually go for it. Yeah,
right.
So I think it'd be interesting, and like you say, he has got that history of developing clubs and implementing a sort of culture. But yeah, it's been with smaller clubs.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how he goes. I still maintain that United they've got a squad that could win the league. I certainly believe it's the best United squad in the last 15 years, and I believe that they've got a squad that can win the league. However, I also think that the competition to win the Premier League at the moment is possibly the most competitive that I've ever experienced it.
Yeah, I can't remember this many teams being so good.
Yeah, it's normally pretty obvious that there's 1 or 2 teams that will win the Premier League or be challenging for it. For instance, for the last couple of years, it has been Liverpool or City that have been like the 2 challengers. Then there was a period where it was City and United that were challenging, and so on and so forth. This year, it is like if you forget the fact that United have had a pretty rubbish start to the season, which can be turned around with a few good results, you've really got 4 teams that could win the Premier League, in my opinion. And I do include United in that.
And West Ham as well.
West Ham
who just beat
really
Chelsea as well.
Beat Chelsea, yeah. Which was news to my ears. I'm a Liverpool fan. They beat us. Our only loss of the season to West Ham. My father-in-law is a West Ham fan, so it's the worst team. It's the worst team to beat us, because he's just rubbed it in my face. But then a few weeks later, they beat United, and it made me very happy.
Beat Chelsea.
Sorry, Chelsea. Yeah. Chelsea dropped points then, so tightened up the league.
The top level German managers that are out there in the world, Klopp, Tuchel, and also the Bayern Munich manager Nagelsmann, they've all come out and said that Ralf Rangnick is like a huge inspiration for them.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So he's like the godfather of German football, and all of these next generation German managers.
I knew that Klopp had complimented him. I kind of hope he does well, really. I don't, even though I'm a Liverpool fan, and it's nice in a way to see United drop down, because they are such a big club and a big brand, and like really Liverpool's main like spiritual rival.
Yeah.
I don't want to see them drop down the league. I just don't.
We want those old days back of Liverpool United being like the best game of the season, don't we? I think.
Yeah, I'd like to see United knock City off their perch a little bit.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Because City are annoying little bastards at the moment. So, but also Spurs have had some issues with COVID, have they?
They have, yeah. They've lost, I think it's 8 first-team players to COVID over the last couple of days.
8?
Yeah.
Wow.
And their manager, Antonio Conte, came out and said, like, they're genuinely scared at the scale of COVID going around their club. If Spurs have got so many COVID cases, it's quite likely that other clubs are going to start popping up with COVID cases as well, isn't it, I think?
From what I've read, they say that the new Omicron virus is more transmissible, so easier to catch, but is less deadly.
Yeah.
So I don't, as far as I'm aware, there's not been a single death from it yet as of today.
Yeah, I don't know.
See if that changes until the next podcast.
But there's a lot of people saying that it's the natural way of viruses is that they develop to become more transmissible over time. It's a natural order of things, and also to become less deadly, and have less severe effects on people. So kind of makes sense that this has happened, and hopefully any future variants, even though they may be even more transmissible and everybody catches it, maybe it should be fine. It should just be like minor cough.
I hope our podcast becomes more like Omicron.
Yeah.
More transmissible, but a little bit less deadly.
And the amount of people that die from listening to our podcast is
I'm
shocking
sick of
in a minute. Yeah.
The amount of hate mail on our P.O. box. Yeah. I'm looking forward to this one. Well, in a weird way. I was curious about this one. Suicide pods.
Oh, yeah.
That's a very jovial way to greet such a grim topic.
Yeah. Can't wait for this one.
I've been waiting for this one. I saw this headline and I've not read into it, and I've purposely not. I wanted to find out more about it live on the podcast.
Nice, okay.
And if you see the picture...
Are they reusable? That's what I want to know.
Oh, God.
If you were intending on committing suicide and you were going to go into a suicide pod, however it works, we'll find out in a minute, would you use a suicide pod that somebody else had previously used?
I honestly wouldn't give a fuck, mate. If I was,
yeah,
why does it matter?
I don't know.
Like, you might as well be laying on the floor of a sewer.
It's a bit like saying, if you were going to be buried in a coffin, would you be happy to be buried in a coffin that someone else had used and then they just like dug it up? Would you?
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, okay.
Right, here it is. And I just saw this headline. I thought we have to include this because it's such a random thing.
Yeah, let's go.
Maker of suicide pod plans to launch in Switzerland. The company behind, and I'll show the picture of this actually because it's an interesting design. It almost looks, I want to say cool, kind of futuristic and cool. But again, if that's your objective, why does it need to be
Go out in style.
Go out in style. Yeah, all right. Well, I mean, the thing is, it looks like a car, so it's like you could go out in it before. Yeah. Anyway, maker of suicide pod plans to launch in Switzerland. Switzerland, obviously renowned for being a place that it's legal to commit suicide. There are literally companies that can help you do that. The company behind 3D printed pod, which can help carry out assisted suicide, has said it is confident it could be used in Switzerland as early as next year. Sarko commissioned a Swiss legal expert who found that the machine did not break any laws in the country, but other lawyers questioned his findings. Assisted suicide organisation Dignitas said it would unlikely meet much acceptance.
All right.
Assisted suicide, in which somebody is given the means to end their own life, is legal in Switzerland. Around 1,300 people died there in this way in 2020. Both assisted suicide and euthanasia, in which a doctor ends the life of somebody who wants to die, are illegal in the UK. So the legal debate. The current method in Switzerland used to provide the person with a series of liquids that, if ingested, will end the person's life. By contrast, the pod, which can be placed anywhere, is flooded with nitrogen, reducing the oxygen levels rapidly. Oh, that sounds kind of grim, doesn't it?
Gassed.
It's suffocating. The process would make the person inside lose consciousness and die in approximately 10 minutes. The suicide pod is activated from the inside and also has an emergency button to exit. Wow, that's interesting.
Jeez.
So if you have a late change of heart... Freaking hell. Daniel Hurliman, a legal expert, the assistant professor at the University of St. Gallen, was asked by Sarko to explore whether the use of a suicide pod would break any Swiss laws. He told the BBC his findings suggest the pod did not constitute a medical device, so would not be covered by the Swiss Therapeutic Products Act.
Right. So it wouldn't be allowed in Switzerland.
Sounds like it. He also believed it would not fall foul of laws governing the use of nitrogen, weapons, or product safety. This means that the pod is not covered by Swiss law, he said. But Kirsten Noel Vikinger,
Say it again.
Vikinger, a doctor, lawyer, and professor at the University of Zurich, told Swiss newspaper, medical devices are regulated because they are supposed to be safer than other products. Just because a product is not beneficial to health does not mean that it also not affected by these additional safety requirements. That is insane.
Yeah.
That is kind of insane, isn't it? However, think of a situation where the process is that someone's supposed to die and they suffer immeasurably through that process and then live.
Yeah.
So I kind of see that point of view.
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
What do you think of that, mate?
The first thing that sprung to mind is I believe there's a community of people out there that are fairly obsessed with near-death experiences, because they believe that it's you sort of like transcend this extra level of consciousness, and it's an amazing experience. So you just get potentially a load of tourists like saying, I need to experience this, and
get me in the pod.
Yeah, get me in the pod, and then you have your hand on the emergency button, and then it gets to like 7 or 8 minutes, and you're like bang, and then just to see how close you can get to death. I reckon people would start using it for that.
I mean, it raises another question: what's the point in having an emergency exit button?
Yeah.
If quite quickly you're going to be unconscious anyway.
Yeah.
What if you really don't want to do it? You get in there, you decide that you don't want to do it, but your brain's not functioning very well, and that's it. It's too late. To me, it raises like moral questions. At least with the liquid, it's they press the button.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
I saw a documentary on that a while ago. It was actually a very sad documentary. I won't go into detail about it, but the guy basically presses the button and his wife's there beside him, and it's quite sad, but it was his choice.
Yeah, yeah.
And I kind of respect that. And I am pro-assisted suicide, where you give the choice to the person, because we will put animals down because of, let's say illnesses that are going to cause them prolonged pain, for example, and expenses and various other things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So why do we treat animals almost more respectfully than humans?
Yeah. The danger is if it becomes normalized and the whole world is fine with assisted suicides, is you then break into that risk territory of like, was somebody persuaded, or was somebody convinced that it's the right way out? If you're in a lot of pain and your loved one was like, listen, I don't think it's worth carrying on like this. You're going to be on medication for the next few years, and I've got to look after you, and I can't afford it anymore. And somebody says, you know what, it's probably just easier if I die then.
Yeah,
you might have situations like that. Whereas currently, you have to go to Switzerland, and you have to it's quite a big
it's a long
issue.
process. It's an expensive process, but
to get to that stage in Switzerland now, you have to be like so sure. You have to be like, I hate my life. I'll do anything to get myself to Switzerland and do it.
Yeah.
Whereas if it became accessible for everybody,
accessible is a good word.
I think there's a lot of chances that people go through this motion of suicide. And maybe
agree
not
with it?
The idea in general.
I
think so. Yeah, I think if you are in so much pain and you've got no quality of life whatsoever, and you're literally waiting to die, and every time you go to bed and you wake up, you're completely depressed.
I think especially if you know you're going to die like relatively soon, and actually all you're doing is stopping the prolongedness of it.
Yeah, if you're having a really undignified exit, and you just think, you know what, if I could just be surrounded by my family and we all knew exactly what time and place this is going to happen, and I can say goodbye, and we're all there, and we'd go peacefully.
I can speak from my own experiences, and this is a little bit grim, but I can speak from my own experiences where in the hospice, my mum was, they give people drivers in hospice, where it's like basically
type of golf club.
Extra, yeah. She was so bad with that 3-iron in the hospice, man. Honestly.
Have a driver.
Yeah, have a driver, which is like, what the fuck is this for? I've never played golf in my life. I would question whether hospices are assisted suicide in a way. Well, probably euthanasia in a way, because they give them these drugs that basically like kind of speed it up in a way when it's really obvious in the last day or two that they're going to die anyway.
Okay.
But the thing is, and a lot of people don't realize this, the heart and lungs operate essentially like sort of automatically and independently. Your heart and lungs can go on for days, even if your brain is basically dead.
Right. Yeah.
So if you look at that from the perspective of the family,
you're
having to kind of like knowing full well that the person isn't conscious. It's just a living body.
Yeah.
So I was looking away because my sister took up that burden for 2 or 3 days. She basically sat with my mum in the hospice while she was a complete vegetable, knowing she was going to die at any point, but had to wait until her heart and lungs gave in. So to me, in that situation, it wouldn't be assisted suicide. That would be euthanasia.
Yeah.
But in that situation, when it's clear someone's got, like, say, no brain activity, I think it makes sense at that point. So,
especially if the scientific opinion was there's no chance the brain is going to reactivate. You know, if they said there's like a 5% chance that, you know, it could come back to life and, you know, be
well, they also sign like a DNR, do not resuscitate, as well. So that's also essentially like a legal document that says that they're essentially accepting that at some point they're probably going to, like, die quite soon or whatever. So a bit of a grim topic, but, like, quite a serious topic that's worth mentioning. I didn't realise it would be. It's
amazing that somebody has created that with that design. It, like you say, it does look quite cool, but I don't think if you were that desperate to commit suicide, I think you'd probably be better off with your family around you. And
well, yeah, but I think you've got a question at that point. That's a company that's making money from that.
Yeah.
But then you could also argue people like funeral parlours and so on and so forth are just profiting from people's death as well. So it's not a new concept.
What I did like about it is the fact that it can be placed anywhere, so you don't have to go to the pod to do it. Yeah. You can be like, you know what, I'm fed up.
On a beach or...
Yeah, exactly. I want to go to my favourite place in the world, put the pod there, and just enjoy the last few seconds of my life.
Imagine, and it's horrible that you're going, but imagine if you're going, but you're in like a
paradise.
Wherever you want to be. Yeah, okay, I can get on board with that.
And then,
I mean, not right now, but...
And all your family are banging on the window going, stop it, don't come back.
Can you imagine? What do I do? Press the button. Oh, no, too late. We shouldn't laugh, but we are.
You've won the lottery, open the door.
Salmon, I'll see you in hell. Parking spot next to the devil. Right.
That was good, I enjoyed that.
Goose news.
Oh, yeah, okay. Quick question for you before I get into the story.
Oh, God. I know what this is. He does this every time.
No, this is a genuine question. All right, when geese fly in a V formation, you'll probably often notice that one side of the V is longer than the other. Do you know why this is?
I do know, but I want to see if you know. So can you tell me your answer, and I'll tell you if you are correct.
Because there's more geese on that side.
You amuse yourself with these jokes, don't you? Well, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, exactly. You would have been right. Okay, headline of Goose News. Are you doing a little jingle?
I wasn't going to, but a couple of people said that they like the jingle that we do.
All right.
So I think we need to.
I think you're the jingle specialist.
I think people like it when they see a jingle from both of us, mate.
Oh dear.
6 geese are lying, goose news are dying, and a salmon in a didgeridoo.
Hold on a minute. 6 geese are dying. No, 6 geese are lying. What was the second line? Goose news is dying, I think you said. I'm not having that.
Mate, it's one of the most popular segments. That'll never die. Unless you run out of news.
Goose News lives.
Great jingle.
Geese inspire new Airbus formation flying technology. The last time Geese and Airbus made airline history together was when the birds got sucked into Captain Sully's Airbus A320 engines over New York City.
Great film, by the way.
208 seconds before his famed landing on the Hudson back in 2009. That same year, a group of Stanford University students entered an Airbus Fly Your Ideas contest at an international competition searching for new concepts to make commercial aviation more environmentally responsible. This Stanford team's pitch was simplicity gleaned from nature. If airlines mimicked the V formation, the flying technique of geese, they could save fuel and decrease carbon emissions. Decades earlier, scientists learned that birds flying in formation exerted less energy. Heart monitors strapped to the migrating birds showed that those flying at the back of the V had slower heart rates than those at the front, and flap their wings less often, using up less energy on long migrations. Although this Stanford team didn't win the contest, Airbus liked their geese idea, so much so that eventually Airbus decided to try and put the idea into practice.
What?
On November the 9th, 2021, Airbus departed 2 state-of-the-art... Oh my word.
Did you? That better not say it on there. If you've written that on
there.
Typo. Oh my god.
Rewind.
6 geese a-laying.
On November the 9th, 2021, Airbus departed to state-of-the-art Airbus A350s test jets from Toulouse in France. Once airborne, the two planes maneuvered into a tandem position 1.5...
Did you just say maneuvered?
Maneuvered. I said maneuvered.
Mate, that sounded a lot like maneuvered.
It's full of innuendo into this article. Once airborne, the two planes maneuvered into tandem position 1.5 nautical miles apart and crossed the Atlantic in formation flight before landing in Montreal. So what did the Airbus transoceanic demonstration flights prove? That long-haul formation concept was a feasible, safe, and as predicted, reduce fuel burn and carbon emissions from the trailing jet. So basically, two planes have flown in formation. So the plane at the back, 1.5 nautical miles further back, was benefiting from being in the slipstream of the other plane.
Slipstreaming, right? So like Formula One slipstreaming. Wow.
Yeah, or like
a mile and a half back.
Nautical miles. I don't know what the difference is.
Oh, right, okay.
So from the experiment, they found that over 6 tons of CO2 emissions were saved on the trip, confirming that the potential of more than 5% fuel saving per journey.
That's a big deal, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you can just basically have 2 or 3 flights that just tailgate each other.
Yeah.
And that was inspired by geese.
That's right, yeah. So getting 2 planes to leave from the same airport to arrive at the next same airport sounds a bit of a ridiculous idea.
Yeah.
However, they have found that flying in formation is still a viable option, even if the aircraft set off from different airports. So you could have an airport leaving Paris, an airport leaving London, a plane leaving Paris.
Airport.
You have a plane leaving Paris, a plane leaving London, and a plane leaving Munich, all going to America. And they all meet, fly in formation, and the 2 other planes will save fuel and reduce their carbon footprint.
That's quite incredible, really.
Yeah.
Mate, that was great. I enjoyed that one. That was good. One of my favourites, I think, that one.
I'm glad.
Yeah,
you were waving your beer bottle at me. Are you finished?
Nearly, yeah. Are you?
I'm not far. I mean, I can drink it a bit faster, the last bit.
I'll get us a Baileys, because I bought a bottle of Baileys for 12 quid at I told Salmon this earlier. 12 quid at Tesco's.
Bargain.
Other supermarkets are available.
Yeah.
And then I went back a week later once I'd drank that one on stream.
Yeah.
And it was £9.50, which is incredible value. I already thought it was very good value at 12
practically
quid.
giving it away, aren't
Practically giving it away. Always cutting prices. That's Asda, isn't it? Was it Tesco?
That's Asda.
You may not have seen, but he slapped his ass when he said that. And that was the...
State of the arse. Look at the state of the arse on him.
Pork scratchings. Well, there's a Baileys here, mate. Cheers.
Yeah, I'm going to have it after I finish my beer. Okay. Cheers.
Yeah, I saw this one, and I just found it very interesting. 6 ways shoebox-sized satellites are trying to change the world.
Shoebox satellites?
Shoebox-sized satellites.
Okay.
Shoebox-sized satellites. Satellite. Throw your poo in the air. See how far you can get.
State-of-the-art satellite.
Shite ass. The CubeSat is a small but mighty bit of tech about the size of a shoebox. The tiny satellites were invented by Professor Bob Twiggs in 1999.
Good old Mr. Twiggs.
1999 as an educational tool for students. They couldn't put very much in it, which was the real challenge. It forced them to quit adding things to their designs. Quicker and cheaper to build and launch than conventional satellites, there are now hundreds of CubeSats orbiting Earth made by universities, startups, and governments. Here, we look at 6 exciting projects that are trying to change the world. Now, rather than us go into detail on all of them, I'll just read what the 6 are, and maybe we choose one of them to go into detail on. Right?
Okay.
So, 6 exciting projects that are trying to change the world using CubeSats. 1, stopping deforestation. 2, tracking endangered animals. 3, exposing modern slavery. 4, clearing up space junk. 5, fixing wind turbines. And 6, exploring deep space.
Modern slavery. I'm interested in that one.
Modern slavery, right, okay. The Rights Lab in Nottingham University uses satellite imagery to help it delve into the secretive world of forced labour. It most recently used CubeSat imagery to map the makeshift camps of Bangladeshi fruit pickers in Greece. We can see how these informal settlements are changing through time, says Professor Doreen Boyle. who is leading the project.
Go on, Boyle.
Come on, Doreen. We know when there's a land clearance, we'll see new settlements forming when we look back later. The team worked with a local NGO who visited the camps they founded.
A new GOOSE office.
Order.
Yeah.
They were able to talk to the migrants, so they've got a lot more information about what's going on in terms of living conditions. They were able to say, right, we've got 50 informal settlements in this area. How do we prioritize our activity? So basically, they use the satellite imagery to detect when camps are
illegal camps are set up. Yeah,
that's the end of the article. So
nice
little cube satellites that are kind of
just check the endangered species one. I wonder if it's linked to my walrus detective job.
It could well be, actually. Good point. Earlier this year, a team of students from Italy and Kenya launched the Wild Track Cube Simba. This CubeSat will monitor birds and mammals in Kenya's national park. There's not many walruses in Kenya, really.
I don't think there is, no.
I think we've answered that. But it was quite interesting that we're using shoebox-sized
That's crazy, satellites. Isn't it? Because when I picture a satellite, I'm thinking something so big that, like...
And full of, like, mad technology and not just, like, basically... Kind of like just like a flying camera, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really?
And the fact that startups and students are sending these up into space, I take it as like very little regulation on what people send up into space. And
so I saw, it's funny you should say that. I saw an image the other day, and it could have just been another one of those many, many hoax dumb images that you see.
Yeah.
But it was like of a little cube that was on the moon. So it was some imagery of the moon, and there was a little cube in the distance, which would have made it quite big.
Yeah.
But it was framed as though like China were colonizing the moon.
Ah.
And it got me thinking, if China just colonizes the moon, that's it. They've got it then, haven't they? Like,
yeah.
No one's going to go on and go, sorry, we're taking this.
Yeah.
They're there already, aren't they?
Yeah, that's true.
So it makes me wonder, why wouldn't they colonize the moon like China? And it also then begs the question, why, as a human race, do we have to segment ourselves into countries?
Yeah, exactly. That's the most frustrating thing. When it comes to issues like that, which affect the human race, like, fine, it's all right having countries because you can have your own little culture and feel a sense of belonging, but there are certain things that transcend countries, isn't there? And that's like the future of the human race.
You put it brilliantly.
It's even in the Chinese interest to diversify the future of the human race. You mean, if it's just Chinese people on the moon and the rest of the earth is wiped out, they've got a much smaller pool of people to choose from for the future of human race.
And I also just think that in general, like the resources of a wider range of people like to be more effective. We touched on this, didn't we? A few podcasts ago. What was it? Collective wisdom or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of bizarre, but like I also thought like it would just be just like America or China or another Russia, right? One of those three, just to stick a flag in it and say we own this now.
Yeah, screw you guys.
Yeah. New laws, new everything. New metaverse.
Yeah.
Get your passports out.
If we in our political party, the
Decentralized autonomous government,
the DAO
DAG
party, and then we developed a satellite for our own use. What do you reckon? What is a good use of a satellite for a political party? Do you think?
For a political party?
Well, I don't know. Maybe even for us, for our own private use, if you wanted to. But
a private data network that's floating in the sky rather than
PDN.
Sat in. Yeah, PDN. Yeah, that's what we'll call it.
Yeah.
Right, okay. and that could be what is used in the sky, because it's solar. You can power it with solar, and that could be essentially a sky-based data center that is the network that it runs on. So it's the physical network that the whole organization runs on.
Yeah, I like that idea. Very intelligent answer. I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. What do you mean you wasn't expecting? Fuck you. Last part of the podcast now, we got the Ashes up and coming.
Oh, the Ashes. So the Ashes actually started 2 days ago, and England are getting absolutely abused.
I have to say, I don't follow cricket that much. I used to play quick cricket at school, and I was actually all right at it. I played pretty well, but I never really followed it since then. Mainly because the pads were always so big on me that when I ran, I looked like a fucking penguin.
Cricket is one of our country's national sports. The height of cricket really for any England or Australia fan is the Ashes, above any World Cup that takes place. So they take it in turns to play in Australia or in England, and so we're currently in Australia, and each cricket game lasts 5 days. England chose to bat first in the first game and were all out for 147, which is poor.
I know that is
very
bad. 'Cause
poor.
don't they sometimes get like 400 or something?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Jesus.
So Australia are on 347 or something, or 350.
And do they take the total across multiple games or something? Or does the amount matter?
So each team bats twice in one game.
Right,
So
I see. So it doesn't matter.
England will bat again, but they'll be like 200 runs or more behind Australia when they bat again. So then they're going to have to get at least 200 odd to be equal, and then they need to go and score.
They're going to have to figure it out, aren't they?
They're screwed. And a lot of their best players are reaching old age, or, one of their fastest bowlers he's getting towards 40 now. Yeah, and Ben Stokes, who'd just taken some time off for some mental health issues.
Yeah.
He's come back, and it looks like he's picked up an injury, having not performed too well in the first innings. So it's looking really bad for England. And when things start looking bad for England...
I'm sorry, that sounds like a great excuse. When I perform badly at something, I start saying that I've pulled an eyebrow and it affected my performance.
Yeah, well, it could, maybe it is an excuse from him, but the whole team has performed really badly.
Yeah.
And the situation they found themselves in means getting out of that hole is going to be very difficult. And Australia, with the mentality they have and the form that they're in, they're going to go for the kill, and they'll go for a 5-0 whitewash, no doubt. And it's looking like it could happen. So keep your eyes on the Ashes cricket.
Christmas queue. So I had a Christmas question for you.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about the queues in the shops.
No. But
Give me your Christmas queue.
No, but you mentioned something about queue earlier.
Oh, yeah. MI6.
I thought this was just a great little tidbit.
I was listening to another podcast, a rival podcast, the Guardian News podcast. And
what? You can't call them a rival.
Yeah,
Far too small to be a rival.
Okay, we're much bigger than them. But so they did a special podcast on MI6 and how they've gone from this secretive agency that they weren't allowed to discuss who they were and what they do, and how they used to recruit people by literally going to like Oxford University, getting recommendations from professors and tapping them on the shoulder saying, how would you like to be an intelligence officer? Yeah. And now they've become an agency where they understand there's a much bigger need for diversification and people from all different backgrounds of life, and being more open about what MI6 do. And they're saying, like, although we are secret in what we're currently focused on, we need to be more open as an organization and say what we're here to do and why we serve the country, etc.
Interesting.
So they were talking about how, as a publicly funded organization, there's no way they can afford to keep up with the likes of Russia and China's technological advances.
Right.
So they're having to go to the private sector to work with
sense.
them to...
The military's like that as well, by the way. The MOD,
Yeah.
they heavily rely on innovation from the public sector.
Private sector. Yeah,
Sorry,
exactly. Yeah. So it's the same thing with MI6. However, they do have their own in-house technology development center, and
The
whatever
PDC. Is that what they called it? Or they like maybe renamed it or something?
So they've actually come up with a new name for it.
They've rebranded the PDC.
I think they ran out of ideas and they've just called it Q. In
That
reference
is so
to
good.
James Bond.
I absolutely love that when you told me.
Yeah.
It's great that because obviously No Time to Die has recently come out. Daniel Craig's finished his last James Bond.
Yeah.
I absolutely am fascinated by technology in general, but certainly in the Bond film, it's always been something that fascinates me.
Yeah.
So for them to actually take an organisation that is as secretive and government-run and all the rest of it, and so it's a serious organisation, to use something so kind of not serious, I love that.
I find it a little bit cringe.
Really?
Yeah, a little bit. They're supposed to be like the peak of secrecy and like spy level things, and they acknowledge that they have to be a bit more open about things, but then they say, right, we've got this department that invents technology. What can we just call it? And they couldn't think of anything better than just using the James Bond reference.
Yeah, but that's the whole point, though.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit cheesy. So, Christmas queue, come on.
Yeah, all right, yeah. Back on track. The Christmas queue. I had a Christmas question. It was a very simple one. What's your favourite Christmas song? Because we're here 2 weeks before Christmas Day, so...
I'd say it's probably the only one that's coming to mind that I genuinely like quite a lot is the Pogues' Fairy Tale of New York. And the bells are ringing out for Christmas Day.
You scumbag, you maggot, you cheap, dirty faggot.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Oh, you... I nearly called you sexist then.
Maggot, you cheap, lousy faggot.
Okay.
I do like that song.
Okay.
I actually dislike many Christmas songs.
Okay.
Like, I was in Madrid earlier in the week, and the apartment I was renting was outside of or right next to a Christmas market.
Oh God.
The Christmas market was outside the window, and they had Christmas songs on full blast all evening.
In Spanish?
No, like in English.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think they've recorded their own Spanish versions of them. It made me realise how many Christmas songs I can't stand.
I quite like the one that what were they called? It was like a rock band that did it, and it was like a little bit of an alternative rock band.
The Darkness.
Like, the Darkness. Yeah. I can't remember how the lyrics go.
Don't let the bells end.
Oh God, how does it go?
Don't let the bells end.
Wait, no, wait, that's not it. No.
Okay.
No, wait, I'm gonna have to Google this now.
Yeah,
no. Right.
I like an alternative silly Christmas song.
Yeah. Right, let me just play this.
Christmas time. Don't
Christmas time. Yeah. Don't let the bells end. Yeah, okay, no, we got it. We don't need the video. And also, the guy is just like such a weird looking fella. He's got long hair, skinny. He's always got his top off.
He looks like the classic 70s rock star, doesn't he?
Yeah. But having said that, what a great pivot. He must get so much more money. Have you noticed that these people that do the Christmas songs, they just vanish?
Yeah.
Because they get a massive payoff once a year. They don't need to do anything.
I know. And that's something that I always want to say when people slag off footballers for earning so much money. It's actually musicians that make shitloads of money, especially if they've got a Christmas song as well. Like, because their music gets played all over the world, especially a Christmas song, like it's repeated all over the world the same time of year. They make so much more than footballers.
I actually think that the people that do the Christmas songs make a lot more, because even though it's only one small part of the year where it happens, you've probably got like a 4 or 5 week period where it's being played so much, right? And these days in the world that we live in, they get paid by impressions, and it'll be by... For every 1,000 plays it gets, Spotify, iTunes, whatever, it's not about album sales anymore, physical sales. Yeah. But it's every single year, because they are classics, because they're staples, they're on every playlist. And the thing is, the way that things like Spotify work, people create their own playlists and add their own songs to those playlists. Yeah. And shops and supermarket, everything, they're all playing the same playlist, the same songs. And if you add someone's song to your playlist, it's them that gets the money, because it's just your random playlist, whether you're private or if you're doing it in public, right? And also the radios all pay the money in for copyright and stuff like that as well.
And people say, oh, it's not Christmas until I've heard this song, X, Y, and Z. And you think, oh, it's such a bad song though, and why do you have to hear it for you to feel like Christmas?
My serious answer is, I absolutely love Rocking Around the Christmas Tree. And the reason is, I just love that scene in Home Alone, where he's got the house himself, but he's having to stop them from attacking, so he's making it look like they're having a 10 Downing Street party inside the house. And they're all on like the train tracks. Along, he's got the strings and rocking around. I love that. But also, that just reminds me of something else that I'd literally just forgotten. I just forgot it. I remember. Oh, that was it. Home Alone. The house is now, you can stay in it on Airbnb.
No way.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's so good.
I don't know if it's like each room is available or you get the whole house.
You'd want the whole house, wouldn't you?
You would, wouldn't you? Kevin!
Oh, that'd be so good, especially for Christmas as well.
And I reckon...
Where is it?
If you... I think it's in somewhere like Oklahoma in America or somewhere like that, yeah. And I saw it the other day, I just thought that is absolutely brilliant. If you had like 20 of you or something, let's just do something really bizarre this year. Let's go to America.
What a Christmas party that would be.
It would be so good, wouldn't it? Liverpool, Gerrard.
Villa. Liverpool versus Villa. Gerrard is Villa manager, and he's had a proper good start, hasn't he?
3 out of 4 games he's won.
Has he? And they actually look good to watch as well. They look like...
I've not seen the football.
Yeah, they look entertaining, and everyone looks fired up and like they know what they're doing.
Is that a Gerrard thing though, or was
the
that
old new manager bounce?
It is.
I don't know. I was going to say, is it the new manager bounce that every team has when they get a new manager?
Well, my question is, are Villa known for playing good football in, let's say in the last year or two?
I think they were when Jack Grealish was there. I think they were still fairly good to watch, and they've got some exciting young players as well. But they look more organised and more fired up. But that could just be because it's still Gerrard's early days. But Rangers actually were fired up for years. Like, they were performing at a high level for years.
I mean, that's not being fired up. That's just good management.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's good man management. But some teams, you might expect them to their level to drop a little bit and just to like settle into a rhythm and just be like a mid-table or You
see, and I make the comparisons here with Solskjaer, partly because we already have in previous podcasts, but also because it's a great opportunity to talk about how I don't think Gerrard's the type of guy that would take lazy people or people that aren't committing. And I'm talking about him as a player as well on the pitch, but now as a manager, he's not the sort of guy that would take like anything less than 100% effort.
Yeah, that's right.
He would tear someone down. He reminds me of Roy Keane and a number of other players of that kind of ilk, where they just don't accept anything other than absolute performance. You've got to give blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
And if you're not giving enough of that, he'll call you up on it. And with Gerrard as a manager, he's got even more power now to just say, well, you're off.
Yeah,
that's it.
Give
off.
people a proper bollock in a half time.
Yeah.
He actually gave a little hint of that in a post-match interview. At half time, they were losing, and they came back to win 2-1. I can't remember who it was against. And the interview asked him how he felt about the game, and he was like, "Well, the second half we were great, but first half we shouldn't have played that badly, and it's frustrating that it took me getting into them at half time for them to produce that performance."
Oh, so you basically confirmed it.
Yeah, and I just thought I can imagine it. I can actually imagine Gerrard going nuts at the team, saying like, "We've spent a week practicing."
I don't know what it is. Is it just like, because he's got kind of like I don't want to say evil, but he's got like like an empowering, like sort of an imposing demeanour about him, but also the fact that he's Scouse and it's got quite a harsh voice about it.
Yeah, I think the Scouseness definitely adds to it, because maybe Frank Lampard, who people often compare him to, is a little bit more
soft,
well-spoken and a bit softer. Yeah, whereas being Scouse is a bit
gritty.
It is a bit gritty, and it terrifies you a little bit sometimes.
Yeah. So I sometimes think that about, because quite a lot of the Irish managers have done quite well.
Yeah, and Scottish
managers. Yeah. Sometimes it's about, like, I know it's not as simple as just having a Scottish voice.
Yeah,
but it's got to help, surely. And I also think that about comedians as well. A lot of the time, the comedians that do well, ones that have quite obscure or different voices, example like Kevin Bridges or whatever, or Billy Connolly or whatever.
Yeah.
Right, final thing. Jake Paul supposed to be fighting Thomas Fury, yeah, on the 18th of December. It got cancelled yesterday.
Do you know what happened to Tommy Fury? Because he was the one that pulled out, wasn't he?
Tommy Fury pulled out. He broke a rib.
Oh, he broke a rib.
He's shown X-rays of it, so
do you know how it happened?
I believe that it's true. I don't know how it happened, but there has been videos shown of it. You know his dad. So Tommy Fury's dad. I can't remember what his name is.
Yeah, I've forgotten. He's pretty.
But he's a big, imposing, burly guy. There's a reason, genetics, why Tyson Fury's as big as he is.
Yeah.
Kind of slightly weird that Tommy Fury's not anywhere near as big as that. Makes me think that maybe. Maybe he was. Which, when you think about it, so this video is his dad slamming like a medicine ball against his ribs,
right?
Tommy Fury's ribs, but really, really slamming it, and you see it, and the guy's whole body is jolting. We're not talking like light pressure. We're talking like it looks very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it was just a TikTok that I saw, so it could have just been crap. It could have just been rumour. But to me, that looked like it could have broken a rib. I think if I'd have been doing that, I'd have broken a rib.
All my ribs would have just collapsed.
Yeah.
They'd be like, oh.
yeah. Are you still going to fight Tommy? Jake Paul? No. Yeah, you will. We'll get the medicine ball out if you don't.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. But he's taking a fight with is it Tyrone
Woodley or something?
Yeah, MMA fighter,
right?
Who he's fought before.
Okay.
And he won that fight as well.
You're doing inverted commas. Why?
Well, it was a boxing fight.
Yeah.
Tyrone Woodley's not a boxer. He's an MMA fighter.
Yeah.
So couldn't kick him, couldn't choke him out, all of that stuff. It was an out-and-out boxing fight.
Yeah.
From what I gather, I don't think it was particularly a fair win. And also, I'm pretty sure that Tyrone came out and said that there was a clause that said he couldn't knock him out.
Oh, that rings a bell, actually. I think I heard about that, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
how do you not knock someone out when you're trying to knock someone out?
Yeah. I mean, that's embarrassing. When you start putting clauses into a fight like that, it just undermines the whole thing, doesn't it? It's like...
Well, that's the discussion I wanted to get onto, really. How do you treat boxing if it becomes more about entertainment? Are we getting into the realms where it's just basically wrestling?
It looks like it. The more and more celebrities that get involved into boxing, and the more clauses that put in saying, you can't knock me out, it's only going to expand on that. That's the base level now, isn't it? Like, you can't knock me out, and then somebody else will come along and go, listen, you can't knock me out, and you can't beat me within rounds 1 to 5 and 9 to 12. It has to go.
Because I've got a bet on.
Yeah, exactly, or something like that. So it is gonna become like WWE, where it's almost arranged what's going to happen, and you're just performing a spectacle because millions of people are going to tune in and pay to watch it.
See, I'm okay with that if I know that that's what it is.
Yeah.
And then you've got the option then to say, well, I'll watch it anyway because it's entertaining, or this is a load of crap, I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah.
If they leave it ambiguous, which it's never really been in wrestling. For the last 20, 25 years, it's not been like that in wrestling. I think it's a bit of a joke. I like the idea of somebody, whoever it is, professional or not, fighting someone else who, again, professional or not, they properly fight just to see who is the better man in the moment. and the techniques and what happens. The curiosity of really knowing like what's going to happen here. But the moment you take that and add a script to it in some way, and all right, it's not quite a script if it's just a clause that says "Don't knock me out," but it's scripted. You've taken something off the table, haven't you?
Taken something off massively. I'd even like love to see, for example, ex-footballers, like who get into a debate in the Sky studio after a match. Like Jamie Carragher.
Hell.
Exactly.
We'd love it.
We'd love to see it, but I don't want clauses in there saying you can't do this and you can't do that.
Yeah.
It's got to be a pure boxing fight.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with you there. Like, I'm okay with exhibitions, absolutely, especially when there's charities and stuff involved, but you can't have this script.
Yeah. I would actually like to see them publish the contracts before the fight, just to say this is what the contract says. You know, we're being fully open here. They can redact the finances or whatever if they want to.
If you're talking about like PR, that is such a great PR move.
Yeah,
it really is. In fairness, Tyson Fury came out because they asked him the question directly: has your brother signed a clause that says he can't knock Jake Paul out? And he came out and said, I wouldn't take the fight if that was the case. So he's kind of confirmed that that's not the case. But I also think he could also have equally have been told to say that as well.
Exactly.
So, I don't know. I mean, you got to realise someone like Jake Paul, it benefits him significantly to get a win. He will get so many more millions by getting a win, and it will further his clout to be able to do more of those fights to get the win. Whereas you've got someone like Tommy who's just getting $1 million or $2 million for a cheeky little fight, and it really is just about the money for him. It's not about like furthering his career and all the rest of it.
I think I would have preferred Tommy to have said, you're an absolute joker. Like, I've got a serious career here that I'm trying to build on. I wouldn't even entertain a fight with you, no matter how much shit you give me. And the fact that he's sort of stooped to that level annoys me a little bit and makes me feel like he's undermining his own career.
Yeah, but the thing is, Tyson Fury's got involved in the training and the PR and all the rest of it. So I do wonder if maybe there's been a clause in there that said, for example, we'll pay you an extra 2% or whatever if Tyson Fury gets involved in the PR.
Yeah.
Because they know full well. So, like, and then Tommy's just gone, all right, I'll just give it to my brother, no worries. So it'd be interesting to see what happens, whether or not Tommy will redo it and go again. My feeling is someone like Jake Paul probably would not entertain that anymore, because I already thought that it was a mismatch, because Jake Paul is a massive YouTuber, like one of the biggest YouTubers on the planet.
Yeah.
And Tommy Fury's had 7 or 8 fights, something ridiculous like that, low-level fights. He's been on Celebrity Jungle, fucking whatever. I'm a Big Brother, get me into a...
an island.
X Factor or something like that. An island. Get me into an island. Get me off the British Isles.
Yeah.
Jake Paul even taking that fight and offering him even scraps. And Jake Paul will be making tens of millions from that fight.
Yeah.
I just don't get it, because there's other people that he could fight.
Yeah. I don't get Jake Paul being able to make tens of millions out of fighting people anyway. It just blows my mind, because I don't care about him at all. And
I know, yeah. He's a dick as well. He's a real dickhead.
I'd love it if people just turned their back and said, I don't care about your boxing career. Like, go back to your YouTube and stuff.
Well, I can sort of see the incentive for the boxing industry to accept fights like that, because you've got a load of people at the age that, let's say 12 to 22-year-olds, as an example.
Yeah.
Probably not that interested in boxing, because it's kind of an old school sport.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
But if you involve new school characters in an old school sport like that, it might pique their interest in the sport. And let's say a residual 2% of those new school kids start to like boxing, the wider boxing community is benefiting from it.
Yeah, massively, yeah.
So I understand why they do it.
And then it opens the door for more and more celebrity fights as well. And people from any industry then can start turning their hand to boxing for one-off massive payments, can't they? Pay-per-view matches.
Yeah. Would you have a boxing a boxing match with a professional boxer for a price?
Not with a professional boxer, with a rival podcaster. If they challenged us, like
Grenfell from The Guardian, whatever his name is.
Grenfell.
What's his name? Grenold or something.
Yeah, I'd take a Guardian podcaster into a boxing match. Yeah, if I had like professional training and stuff, yeah, I'd do it.
Okay. Well, you already look like you're in shape for it. So.
Yeah. Tyson Fury shape, maybe. Only the Christmas special to prep for now. between now and the 23rd. It's going to be good.
Looking forward to it. I've missed the last week, mate. I really enjoyed the podcasts, and last week not having it was
sad times, wasn't it?
Sad times, yeah. But
we're back.
Anyone that's still listening live on Twitch right now, or anyone that's listening on the edited version on YouTube on the video, anyone that's listening on Spotify, Audible, iTunes, wherever you're listening to it, thanks for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed it.
If you're listening audio only, have a quick look on YouTube. Check out the old Deirdre Rashid t-shirt.
Deirdre t-shirt is
feedback
iconic.
on it.
All right.
Let me know how good it is out of 10. 8, 9 or 10. They're the only correct
They're
answers.
the only options. Thanks a lot. Take care, guys.
Au revoir.
Cheerio.
Goodbye.